I would say this, it's a particularly important moment to take over the presidency. It's a particularly responsible moment. Why? Because the world today needs direction, world needs leadership, world needs a strategy, a collective strategy, as never before. And there are very, very good reasons for that. The global situation, as we take up the G20, is today perhaps more concerning than it has been for a very, very long time. There are four big issues in the world. One, all of us are familiar with, the impact of the COVID pandemic. Now, we all know the COVID pandemic as something which came from some other country. It has affected all of us. I think there is nobody in the room who would not have directly experienced, or family member or friends. Many of us have suffered losses. But please think about the impact of the COVID on the global economy. What happened with COVID was, the entire world discovered that we are all depending on one country, one region, to supply many of the essential goods for the world. That in the name of globalization, we actually created a very over-centralized economic system. And this has, when it breaks down, has created very, very serious problems. So the world today is looking for, it's like in business. Nobody in business, even if you're a small business, nobody depends on a single supplier, because God forbid something happens. But what happened to the world? The world actually, somewhere in all the propaganda and the myth and the delusion and the attractiveness of globalization, everybody went in one direction. And what has today happened is, there is a search across the world for more suppliers, for reliable suppliers, for multiple suppliers. And this is today a very big issue which is affecting the global economy. A related issue, because the COVID put a lot of stress on the economies of different countries. We have seen in our own region, every one of our neighbors is having some difficulty, some more severe, some less severe. Now, the debt issue has become a very serious issue. That there are today more than 75 countries in the world who are having serious problems meeting their debt obligations. But you can't solve the debt issue if you do not reform the financial system. So that goes to the next area. And in all of this, what is security? We think in terms of when we say security, we say, okay, economic security is important. But economic security is not only the state of your finances. When COVID happened, and we discovered that, in fact, a lot of things we had to import from abroad. There was a period when even masks, when PPEs, when ventilators, when intermediates and basics for base materials for even pharmaceuticals, all these were coming from abroad. Today, I think the world has learnt a lesson that security means not only physical security, not only economic security, it also means health security, it means food security. So we today have to find a way of de-risking the global economy. The way we would de-risk a sector, the way we would de-risk a business. And that is a very major debate and I would say a very major concern of what the G20 would be looking at. The second concern is, of course, from Ukraine conflict. The Ukraine conflict is already something which is hugely damaging, because in this era, the destruction, the casualties, all of you have seen pictures of it. But again, look at the bigger consequences of the Ukraine conflict. As a result, oil prices have doubled, food prices have gone up, fertilizer has become not only more expensive, but sometimes even difficult for many countries to get. At least in our country, Modi government has ensured fertilizer prices have not gone up. Modi government has tried to cushion the consumer as much as possible, even from petrol price increases. And we have tried to see how to keep inflation down. But the reality is, many other countries, many other governments are not able to do this. So if you go around the world and ask people, what is your big concern today? Why are you worried about Ukraine? They will say, yes, we are against the war. But they will also say, we have issues with food, we have issues with fertilizer, we have issues with fuel. Their costs, and this is also something the G20 has to look at. A third issue, of course, predates this. These are the big global issues of our times. Climate change. You know, for many years we keep hearing that we must do more on climate. We agree, we must all do more. Who does not in this room agree we should not do more? But we can only do more if there is more resources, if there is more finance. So a big issue today is, how do you get serious green finance in order to increase the ambition to tackle the climate challenge? I referred to health. Again, you know, we have come through this pandemic. Okay. Everybody, I think, in this room is vaccinated. Okay. Everybody got vaccinated as per the turn which they, were given. I tell you, as someone who was traveling during COVID, from 2020 I was on the road, it was my job. This is not the state of the entire world. There were many countries which did not see vaccines, saw limited vaccines, saw late vaccines, did not have the ability to some of them could not afford it, did not have the ability to get it into their population, could not get the shots in the arm. So, pandemic today has left a very deep psychological scar in the world, but a deep sense of anger that the developed countries looked after themselves during the pandemic, and barring India, and I will talk about that separately, barring India, very, very few countries actually made an effort to think about the rest of the world. And then, of course, there is terrorism. There was a time when, and we, still are particular targets, but more and more there's a realization it's a global issue, and that financing is a key part of blocking, how to block the financing is very important for countering terrorism. So, COVID, Ukraine, these big global issues. And finally, the fourth issue is technology. Because technology today is changing the world at such a rapid pace. It has huge promise. There are many things which we can do. In fact, even COVID, we were able to deal with it because COVID platform and the vaccines we invented and vaccines we manufactured helped us deal with it. But technology also creates today vulnerabilities, dangers. Who has your data? Is somebody using it for artificial intelligence? Are they using it in a way that you do not even know? So, how do you encourage trust and transparency? So, this is a big question. But on the positive side, look at actually the last 4 or 5 years. I would say actually going back to 2014. From the time that the Jan Dhan Yojana started, from the time that Aadhaar, by the way, in this book, there's another very important thing you must read about Aadhaar. Nandan Nilekani has a piece in this book. Now, Nandan Nilekani says that he went to every chief minister at that time, one of whom in Gujarat was, who. Huh? Now, he says in all the chief ministers he met, only one person appreciated what was the potential of Aadhaar. Today, 10 years later, we are all seeing what is the potential of Aadhaar. Without Aadhaar, Jan Dhan Yojana would not have happened. COVID would not have happened. Any of your scheme, Kisan Samman Nidhi, Awas Yojana, Garib Kalyan Yojana, none of this would have happened if we did not have a digital backbone. So the point I'm making is the same technology, it has great promise, it has great danger. The G20 is among the forums which looks at this. So when we meet today in G20, we are meeting because these four challenges, the challenges of COVID, the challenges of Ukraine, the challenges of climate, the challenges of digital, they are all coming together along with many other problems. And our presidency, because we are the chair, we shape the agenda, we give it direction, we will have a very, very important role.
Please subscribe to Nationalist Hub English channel for more interesting videos, and don't forget to like and share this video. Nationalist Hub, it's a news revolution.